Hello everyone, Diane Conroy-Lasavita from Colony Senior Service Center. And I am thrilled we're here at the Times Union today and we'll be interviewing our next person who's involved with Let's Have a Conversation. Her name is Azra Haqqie and I am thrilled that we are able to have this opportunity to come and talk to you today. How are you, Azra?
I am fine. Thank you for interviewing me. This is great.
Now, when we were getting this set up, we actually got permission to come in and film in the lobby today. So you've been working from home, haven't you?
Yes, it's been more than a year. I have not been in the building since March 13th, 2020. And I'm very grateful to have a job that involves technology. So I've been able to stay connected and stay working.
Does the building look the same?
The building looks the same. There's the handles now say that they're antiviral. They have some kind of a coating on them. And it looks same, but there's nobody here, so it also doesn't look the same.
I know, it is very quiet here, which is nice. It's a great opportunity to do this interview right in the lobby, so thank you for that. So a little bit about the early years of Azra. So if you don't mind sharing, where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Pakistan. I grew up in what is now Bangladesh. At the time it was East Pakistan. And we left, I was the older of two children, myself and my younger sister. And it was a fairly pleasant childhood. I don't have anything negative in memory. And I attended Holy Cross School, St. Mary's and then Holy Cross School. We left, my mother, sister, and I left in December of 2071 from East Pakistan, which later shortly after became Bangladesh. My father was a prisoner of war for 2 years in India, even though he was civilian. 90,000 people were taken as prisoners of war, 20,000 of whom were not military. And eventually we were reunited. And I picked up the education where I had left off in East Pakistan, pursued it in Karachi, and graduated with a degree in math from St. Joseph College in Karachi. And my sister died very suddenly in her sleep, so that left just me. And I married and moved to Albany in 1980. Moved here, stayed here. And my husband and I had two children, both of whom are now out of state, grown up. And I started work at the Times Union in 1991. July 1st, so this year it'll be 30 years.
Congratulations, wow.
Thank you. It's been great. I love my work. I've worked in various capacities in the newsroom. I've enjoyed everything, and my coworkers are the best, which makes it like a second family.
So can we just back up a little bit? I'm just curious, so when you, prior to immigrating to the United States, and you were going for your earlier education, was there a big difference now that you have the opportunity of a lifetime of living, the educational experience you had there as compared to maybe what you would have had here, say in this particular area of the United States? Did you go to a parochial school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were. I don't think they used the word parochial there because there was no formal parish that I'm aware of. Many of them were known as convent schools or Catholic schools.
Okay.
And those were the best schools in those days. And I went with, I am Muslim, but there were Christian, Hindu, people of various faiths. And that basically molds your respect for other cultures, other faiths, other ethnicities. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, I'm just trying to get a kind of a snapshot of your early years. So
Yes, the school,
education?
the curriculum, I'm told that the standard of education was much higher in East Pakistan than it even was in what was then West Pakistan. So it was a strong base. I think we had a strong foundation in English grammar, math, and the curriculum in America I have only seen through what my children studied, which was heavy on American history, and I think not as heavy on English language. I would always be saying, well, this isn't grammatically correct. But I think in some ways it was more of a worldview here, and it's such a big country and so much history that I think there is a good grasp for the children.
Was education important to your parents? I'm just wondering, because I would assume going to a convent school, there was a fee associated with that.
Education was very important to my parents. Good education was even more important to my parents. And yes, there was a fee involved, and I imagine for the time it was probably a fairly reasonable fee or tuition involved. And my parents, there were two of us, so my parents probably chose to make that a priority. And later on, college also.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned your dad being arrested. I'm just wondering, how old were you when that happened, and were you aware that that had happened? Was it something that...
Yeah, I was probably 12 or so, and he was not arrested. I think they surrendered.
Okay.
And we did not know if he was alive or dead until Red Cross began publishing lists of prisoners. And then when I saw his name, and I'm the one who saw it and mentioned it to my mother and sister, and we were staying with relatives at the time, and that's how we knew that he was alive. And later we were allowed to correspond. We could write to him, and he was allowed to write back. We were careful to not write anything that could be censored. So we kept it general, but we did manage to have regular letters back and forth. And that's how we knew he was all right.
Now, how long was he in custody?
Almost 2 years.
Wow.
Almost 2 years. I think it was 22 months. And
Poor
I think
mom.
my mom, it was very difficult for my mom. And she was the traditional homemaker, so she didn't have too much dealing with outside matters experience, which she had to suddenly take on. But we're grateful that we managed, and my father was able to come and join us.
Now, when you emigrated to the United States, I think you said 1971.
No, that was when I moved from East Pakistan to West Pakistan.
Okay.
America,
okay.
I came in 1980.
1980, okay. And so, did your mother come with you?
No,
No, she stayed.
No, I married, and that's how I
Okay.
came. So I came to join my husband.
Gotcha. Now, how did you meet your husband?
His sister taught my sister,
Okay.
so she was matchmaker.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
yeah.
And so you came and you settled right here in the capital region?
Yes.
And so what was your impression? So that's what,
I was a young bride, 21, and everything was new and exciting. And I thought the people were, in those days, people were fairly welcoming. They were not aware. I remember once I was in McDonald's with the little ones, and someone asked where I'm from, just another customer. And I said, Pakistan. And he said, PLO. And I had no idea what he was saying. And this other lady who was with us, she was a grandma to my kids, and she caught on. She said, Pakistan, not Palestine. So people were just unaware. But once you told them, they were very understanding.
That goes back to the formal education of...
Yeah, or lack of.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And then when I began work at the Times Union, people were not aware of much about Muslims or observances of Muslims. And when I began working, and it was the first month of Ramadan, which is a daytime fast, and when I explained it to my then editor, Brad Broyles, he said, no one in this office will be eating and drinking the entire month. And I said, no, it's a fast for me, not to be imposed on the rest of you. But I mean, again, the kind of respect they showed.
Yeah.
And anytime I tried to suggest a story about Ramadan or any Muslim observances, the newspaper editors were always open. I don't think I was ever turned down. I was told, okay, would you like to write it? Because you would have the right perspective. And also I find that people will speak with me because they feel I would understand what they're saying. So the newspaper has been very open about that all these years. In fact, one editor, Dennis Michalski, even said to me, you've brought a new readership to this newspaper.
Right. Yeah. Now, so when you started the Times Union, what was your first job here?
In those days, we had a fairly chunky newspaper, and we had a whole section called the Community News section, which had its own department. So I started in the Community News department as a part-timer. In those days, we had a whole one paper, which did, I think, seniors one day, the libraries one day, the school events one day. I think we even had a children's page. So it was literally community events, and people in those days could walk right in and drop off. Our church is having its 50th anniversary celebration, and so it was a very welcoming atmosphere before we were, of course, forced to, for security reasons, restrict people walking in. I think I remember one time a woman walked in, and she was wearing this necklace. It was 1991, maybe December of 1991, and I saw the necklace. It had a word in it, and I said, "Hi, Kathy," and she said, "How do you know my name?" And I said, "It says so in Arabic on the necklace." And she almost hugged me. She said, "My husband brought this back with him when he was deployed to Kuwait in the first war in 91. And she said, to this day, I didn't know if it said Ashley or Mary."
Was her name Kathy?
It was.
Oh, okay.
So she was...
That's funny.
It really put her mind at ease that, okay, she was really who the necklace said she was.
Right. Oh, that's fine. You bring up a very good point about inclusion and coverage. And so this area, I grew up in this area, and now we have mosques. I don't remember that influence growing up. And with that, understanding what Ramadan is and some of the other holidays that are observed by Muslims. And I want to give a shout out to you because we have both Sunni and Shiite mosques locally, and you've really helped us be allowed to go in and tour those.
I don't know if I did
you
anything.
You have. You were.
Muslims are Muslims. Those are just like there's denominations or Christians or different Jews, maybe Reform or Orthodox.
Right.
So basically, when Muslims meet each other, they don't start off by saying, "Hi, I'm Sunni," and "Are you Shia?"
Right.
That's
right. But I think for the outside person,
yes,
that's why we do the Sacred Space program, because you might drive by a structure. I'll give another good example is the Hindu temple on Albany Shaker Road.
Yeah.
People drive by that all the time, and they're like, "Gosh, I wonder what it's like in there. I wonder what their service is like." Yeah. And so it's knocking down those walls,
yes.
Maybe those misperceptions that people have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I went on a lovely interfaith trip to Israel and Palestine. And when we went to the Western Wall, if I were with a Muslim group or a non-Jewish friend, I would have respectfully stood in the corner because I don't want to offend anyone by saying or doing something. But our good friend Barbara Dworkin took me right up to the wall, and she said, "Look, people put notes, prayers in between the bricks or the stones in the cracks." I said, "Barbara, if I'd known I could do that, I would have brought my own little prayer, folded it, and stuck it in there." But again, going back to what you said, that's the significance of having people of different faiths and different nationalities and different ethnicities and different skin colors and understanding.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And, it sounds to me like religion is a very large part of who Azra Haqqie is. And am I correct in saying that?
You are.
Yeah.
I was born and raised a Muslim, and I find that most religions, especially Islam, is influenced by the culture in which you grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the practices may or may not be Islamic,
Mm-hmm.
but because you've practiced it a certain way growing up in a certain country, you associate it with your religion. But then being here all these years, you realize, and dealing with people of different nationalities, Egyptians and Bosnians and Turkish and also Pakistanis, and you realize, well, there's more than one way to do things, and maybe they're all correct. We should not think just the way we've done it all these years is the only way to observe the certain ritual. And also over the years, I think you do broaden your thinking, and I think that's the huge part about living in America, because you're exposed to so much. And then you do realize there's so many contemporary matters to which perhaps we had not given thought growing up, because we were more clustered or more
well, in essence,
segregated, sort of
siloed often.
Siloed,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. And also, if the whole country is basically observing something, it doesn't occur to you that there's other faiths that you also should be including.
Right, yeah.
So that's also been unique being in America, and I think this part of the country is so inclusive of all faiths.
I would agree with. I think this area tends to be incredibly respectful,
my goodness.
which is great. Because then we all learn from that. If you think about it, if you're willing to share
Absolutely.
your culture and I'm willing to share mine, everyone wins in that.
Yes,
For instance.
when the Muslim ban went into effect, I forget exactly when, but I remember it was March of 2017 when people of all faiths flooded the airports to protest that ban, and it just warmed my heart to see people of all faiths standing up for why should
This is not acceptable.
why should people of a certain faith,
Right.
because they choose to follow that faith or were born into it, why should they be excluded from being given entry into the country?
Right.
So, and we've got a very active interfaith community here, and I'm fortunate to have been part of it all these years. And during the pandemic, I've also joined a chapter of the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom.
Oh, very cool. Oh, good for you.
Yeah, we meet once a month.
Are you on Zoom?
Yeah, on a Zoom. And I even attended the virtual national event.
And where was that held out of?
That was
Someone's
held out
living
of
room?
various locations. Yeah, it was all over the place. But you could go to, say, like you would go to a meeting room, or you could come out and go to the bazaar. It was a very unique platform, but it worked.
Wonderful.
It was
wonderful.
almost like attending in person, but not.
Yeah. I do want to share with people that I've known Azra for quite a bit of time. My previous position with the International Center of the Capital Region, she was really a local resource that I could always count on to assist when we'd have groups or delegations come over and we had to kind of create a program for the group. Maybe it was 5 days or 7 days. And so I personally want to thank you for all of that, because you've really, truly been such a giving person.
You're entirely welcome. Part of it was from being active in interfaith. Part of it was being working at the newspaper and having access to connecting you with the churches or mosques or synagogues or whatever congregations you needed to get in touch with. So.
And then we kind of did the sacred spaces where at one point when that project or program started, we would do like 7 or 8 in a day. So we'd get a school bus and we were going all over. Now with the Colony Senior Service Centers, we do 1 a month. And it's
Which
nice.
is good too.
Oh, absolutely. It's easier. You know, it's not like, and I do want to share, so one of the very first sacred spaces I had done at the mosque up on Troy Schenectady Road, and just a wonderful group to work with. And we went in, and it was just a lovely experience. And this is probably going back maybe 2014, thereabouts. And then we got back on the bus, and then the imam come back, and he said, "Oh my gosh, we had snacks," and so then we had to get back off the bus, and and we had our snacks. I mean, they were just so friendly and accommodating. Got back on the school bus for the second time, and everyone was like, "They were so nice. Oh, it was so," And I said, "Well, what did you expect? What did you expect?" And so that was, and I believe you actually helped me set that up originally way back when.
Oh, I don't remember. But I think at the core, all religions are the same, and all people, basically all you want is to live in peace, raise your children, you hope they turn out right.
Yeah, be respected for your beliefs.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah.
absolutely. And that's basically all there is to it.
You model that.
Oh,
so you do.
I
You're
don't know,
a very
but
kind
thank you.
soul. Now, what is your current position at the Times Union?
Well, my official title, which is a mouthful,
Okay.
is News and Information Services Desk Coordinator.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah. So I like to shorten it by saying I do some work related mostly to community news in that writing, rewriting press releases, doing some writing and reporting. And I used to say causing some trouble in the newsroom, but I really can't do that much.
Now you do it from your dining room table.
Right, right.
Yeah.
As the newsroom has been shrinking, I've also taken on a few administrative tasks. And a little of this, a little of that, which keeps it very interesting.
Yeah. And you're okay with a little of this? And
I do like that. It gives me a chance to meet more people rather than being pigeonholed into just one set of tasks. And it's just nice to be able to, and I do miss being in the newsroom. And like we get Hearst Fellows, which are like, it's a sort of internship. And usually it's lovely to meet the young people now. I haven't even met, we couldn't even do farewells to the ones last year or a welcome to the ones this year. And they've admirably adjusted or pivoted to what was expected once we went into lockdown.
It's amazing how people have been able to pivot. There really wasn't an option.
No, and there was no formula.
Yeah, no. You still wonder if there's one now.
Yeah.
We'll get through this.
But
now I have a question for you. So you've been here for a very long time, journalism and newspapers, and where do you see that go? I get the paper delivered every morning. I like holding the paper. Now I can read it on my iPhone if I have to. I find on the iPhone though all those ads are going by, so it's almost like you're trying to read and somebody's going, hey, buy my car or whatever. So I like the hard copy paper. I think I'm the only one on our staff that actually gets the paper delivered to their house. Pretty much everybody reads it online. And so I'm just wondering, where do you see any paper, not necessarily the Times Union, any paper in the next 10 years, 15 years? Do you see hard copy and, the wonderful press that you have here?
well, I am also one of those who has the newspaper delivered, and I do like to read the paper version. If I'm out of town, I'll read the online version, which, by the way, if you're a subscriber, you can get, so it looks like a newspaper.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding how long the paper will be around, I do like to read the paper version. If I'm out of town, I'll read the online version, which, by the way, if you're a subscriber, you can get, so it looks like a newspaper.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding how long the paper will be around, as Rex Smith said once with regard to, after some seminar he'd attended, the last reader of our print edition has already been born. And I would say is already probably in the 50s, if not 60s.
Yeah.
So I think there will always be a paper, just not the paper version, because I don't find the young people are reading a paper. They'll read a story here and there if it's shared on some social media. or maybe some of them even check out their local newspapers. Very few subscribe to e-editions of maybe the major newspapers or local papers. But even my children, I mean, I grew up with the Pakistani English language newspaper, the Urdu language newspaper in the mornings. My father picked up the evening edition. Remember those?
We had the Knickerbocker here.
Yes,
yeah.
That's correct. And we always had Time Magazine, Newsweek, Reader's Digest. These were standard in reading material in our house that we subscribed to. And here we always got the Times Union. My husband would be reading Wall Street Journal and New York Times. I don't find my children do that. I think one of them subscribes to an e-edition of the New York Times, but no more paper version that you hold. So I'm not very optimistic that there will be a paper version, and I can't say how many years down the road, but eventually it doesn't, unless the pendulum swings the other way. Who
Which
knows?
it could, right?
Could.
You never
It
know.
could.
What advice would you give to a woman, maybe an older woman, who thinks that she has the capability or the interest in writing, whether it's a short story or whatever? And then also, what advice would you give a younger woman who's maybe thinking about going into journalism?
Well, they're excellent questions. Nobody welcomes advice anymore, but
Well, that's why we have conversations. So what advice would
you see,
give?
like, I find that newspapers cutting back on staff, be it not replacing ones who have left or eliminating certain positions, they are open to freelancers. So if someone is looking to write and is good, that person could try, the older woman first, could try to approach to see if that's something any newspaper would be interested in, either on a regular basis or an occasional basis. And for the younger person, the schools still have journalism programs, so they must know something, so they're still graduating them. Jobs are, of course, different from what they were 20 years ago, but they're still there, I get the feeling. But of course, the younger people have to be prepared to adapt also. Certain things may not make it to the print version. They may only end up on the e-edition, or they may only be put on the e-edition and then shared on Facebook. So if the person you interviewed is looking to frame that cutout of the paper version and send it to grandma, that may or may not happen.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I was sharing, going back and forth about journalism with a colleague this morning, and she said to me that her son, I guess he's in junior high now, they stopped giving spelling tests like when he was still in the grammar school, because they think, although the computer will put the red line under misspelled words. And I thought, gosh, 20 years from now, nobody's going to know how to spell, if you think about it.
You'd be amazed at the number of typos that still make it in the paper, because we don't have enough proofreaders or editors. And people would call and complain. And some are regulars, and I would just tease them. Oh, we were seeing if you still pay attention. And they pay along. Yeah, I'm still alert.
We have a woman on our staff, and that's her job is to go through everything. And although I always, I'll send you a press release, you'll go, Diane, what time was that supposed to be?
Well, we are all human, but there are occasional mistakes.
Yeah. But things we publish, she really has a gift, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to making sure that things go out and they make sense.
Yeah, some people just have it.
Yeah.
They're more aware. And then the newspaper never likes to publish corrections.
I know. Nor do we.
But that happens.
Yeah.
I think today we have to saying that 2 names in stories that ran yesterday were spelled incorrectly. So, but it happens. Maybe a reporter assumed it was spelled a certain way, but that person spells a common name differently. It happens.
Well, Azra, this has been really a delight. I so appreciate you taking the time and participating. with this. These let's have a conversation are important. People are still sitting at home waiting for things to open up, and to hear from women, especially successful women who have had an interesting life path, such as yourself, and that you're willing to share that, we so appreciate. So on behalf of Colony Senior Service Centers, all of our staff and board, I want to thank you again for zooming in on our current edition of Let's Have a Conversation. Thank you, Azra.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure and my honor.
Thanks.